My mom gave everything to my brother. I was left with an old SUV and no home. He threw me out. 4 years later, I silently reclaimed it all. Then he tried to ruin me with a fake video, but didn't know I had hidden camera footage. Hi, I'm Leona. I'm 29F. And 4 years ago, I lost everything that should have been mine. Not because of a mistake. Not because of bad luck. But because my mother handed my entire inheritance over to my brother, like I didn't even exist. I was 25 at the time, working as a mechanical engineer at a mid-sized firm, finally getting settled in my career. My parents had recently retired, and their assets were substantial: a large family home, 2 vacation properties, and full ownership of a local logistics business my dad had built from the ground up. I wasn't expecting anything to be handed to me on a silver platter, but I'd put in work too, literal unpaid labor for years helping run the business, especially during Dad's health issues. I gave up my internships to stay close and help. But apparently, none of that counted. When my father passed suddenly from a stroke, my mother called an emergency family meeting. I thought it was to talk through the estate and how things would be split. Maybe a plan for the business. Instead, she sat at the head of the table, calmly sipping tea, and dropped the bomb. "So I've decided," she said, "that everything will go to your brother. It just makes sense. He's the man of the family now." I stared at her in shock. "Everything?" She nodded like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. "You'll still get something," she added lightly. "I'm giving you your grandfather's old SUV. That's still a perfectly good car." My brother, Mason, 31M, looked smug like he'd won some invisible game. He had never contributed a single hour to the family business, dropped out of college, jumped from one get-rich-quick scheme to another, and still lived at home. And now he was getting 2 houses, a thriving business, and our parents' full savings. I asked why. Calmly, at first. "Because you've always been independent," Mom said. "You don't need help. But Mason does. He needs structure. And you always acted like you wanted to be out of the family, remember?" I hadn't spoken back. I'd only moved into an apartment to be closer to work. I still visited every weekend. I helped. I showed up. That meeting ended with me walking out, tears burning down my cheeks. I couldn't believe I was being disowned for being responsible. I thought I'd at least have time to process. But Mason had other plans. 2 weeks after the meeting, I received a curt message from him. "Don't forget to grab your stuff. I need the room." He meant my childhood room. The one I had grown up in. He wanted me out. I drove over, shaking with anger, and found the locks already changed. He met me in the driveway, arms crossed. "You're not entitled to anything anymore, Leona," he said smugly. "Take your junk and go." He handed me 2 boxes. My clothes, some old books, and a photo frame with my dad's picture. Cracked. I tried not to cry as I loaded those boxes into the back of the old SUV. That SUV. It rattled every time I drove and smelled like mildew. But it was mine. The only thing I'd been deemed worthy of. I drove off that day without looking back. The months that followed were some of the hardest in my life. I didn't have the emotional energy to fight. I had no savings because I'd been pouring my income into keeping the family business afloat. And now I was alone. No father. No inheritance. No home. But something inside me changed during that time. I stopped expecting fairness. I stopped hoping they'd wake up and apologize. Instead, I started building. I worked longer hours. Took every side project I could. I leaned into the tech side of engineering and picked up freelance design contracts. I read books about business ownership. Quietly, steadily, I started saving every extra penny. I moved into a smaller apartment. Skipped vacations. Said no nights out. And all while I was rebuilding my life, Mason was doing the opposite. From what I heard through mutual acquaintances, he had fired most of the original staff from the family business and replaced them with his friends. He turned it into some flashy delivery service and started throwing parties at the vacation house. My mom enabled all of it. She even let him refinance the main house to fund some app idea he had. It made my stomach turn, but I stayed quiet. I didn't even respond when he posted photos of the business under his new branding, as if he'd built it himself. And then one day, almost a year later, I ran into Mr. Gallagher, one of Dad's oldest clients. He hugged me like family. "Your brother's completely tanking the company," he whispered. "He doesn't understand logistics. He's about to lose our contract. I wish you were still around." That night, I stayed up till 4 a.m. looking over everything I could find. Business filings, tax records, lease contracts. I had worked in that business long enough to understand how things operated. And I found something big. Despite all the changes, the majority of the company's legal paperwork hadn't been updated. My father had never added Mason to the official business structure. I had been listed, even after his death, as the legal co-owner of the main corporate entity. Somehow, my mom and brother had overlooked that detail. I hadn't. So I called a lawyer. And that's where the real shift began. Over the next year and a half, I quietly restructured my life. I set up an LLC of my own, acquired several of Dad's older clients who no longer trusted Mason. I bought a commercial space under a holding name. And I started investing. No flashy revenge. Just quiet, calculated moves. But the real turning point came when I found out Mason had listed one of the vacation properties, the beach one, for sale. That property had originally been held in a trust, one that my dad had named both of us on back, when we were kids. It hadn't been dissolved. I filed an injunction. Within weeks, Mason was hit with a legal freeze. He didn't even see it coming. For the first time in years, he called me. "What the hell, Leona? You're sabotaging me?" I didn't even respond. I just kept working. And while I was rebuilding everything piece by piece, he was spiraling. His business collapsed. The app failed. His friends bailed on him. And slowly, through a combination of legal positioning, inheritance law, and business rights, I reclaimed nearly everything he'd taken from me. By the end of year 4, I had the main house title transferred, the business back under my name, and 2 of Dad's most profitable clients working exclusively with me. I thought it was over. But then came the fake video. Mason wasn't done. He'd lost everything. And in his bitterness, he tried to destroy me in the one way he knew might stick. Reputation. He uploaded a video online claiming I had manipulated my dying father into signing over the business. He edited old clips from our family archives and spliced them with audio that made it sound like I was threatening him. He posted it everywhere. TikTok. Facebook. Even sent it to old clients. My inbox blew up. And for one sickening moment, I thought maybe this was how it all unraveled. But what Mason didn't know, what he never realized, was that when I took back the main house, I installed security cameras. Not for him. For myself. One of those cameras? It faced the living room. And in that living room, 4 months before the video dropped, he had drunkenly confessed to a friend that he was planning to create fake evidence. He even practiced some of the audio lines, laughing as he repeated them. The whole thing was captured on my hidden living room camera. And what I did next? Well, that's where the real reckoning began. I didn't rush. I watched the storm online first, the video Mason posted, the comments flooding in, the gossip. It was well edited, I'll give him that. Someone helped him manipulate the clips to make me look cold, controlling, even threatening. A few of our former neighbors commented things like I knew she was fake all along. A couple old co-workers from the business messaged me, hesitant now to be associated. But I didn't panic. Because I had proof. I logged into my home security app and pulled the clip from 4 months ago, when Mason had brought over his buddy late at night. They sat in that living room, beers in hand, surrounded by takeout containers and the fake confidence of drunk men plotting something stupid. Bro, I'm telling you, Mason had slurred, this girl's got everything now. House, business, money. I need to flip the narrative. Make her the villain. People love drama. His friend laughed. How? Easy. Edit some of the old clips. You remember the birthday party in 2017? I'll splice that with a voiceover. And boom. She's a manipulative control freak. And then Mason had acted it out right there. Word for word. The same lines he would later post in the viral video. That footage was clear. Crisp audio. No edits. No tricks. Just two men revealing the truth with their own stupidity. I made 3 copies of the clip and backed it up to multiple drives. I wasn't taking any chances. Then I sent it to my lawyer. She called me 10 minutes later, sounding halfway between stunned and gleeful. This is gold, she said. Absolute gold. But we didn't upload it right away. We waited. Because Mason had pushed this into the public. He wanted attention. So I gave it to him on my terms. I emailed every former client who had received his video. Told them calmly and clearly that a response was coming. Then I reached out to a tech journalist I'd worked with during a past consulting project. I told her the whole story. Laid out the timeline. The proof. The betrayal. Everything. She asked for documentation. I gave it. 3 days later, she published an expose. The Inheritance War. How a sibling smear campaign backfired spectacularly. It went viral in hours. Alongside the article, I released the unedited footage from the living room camera. In full. No cuts. No commentary. Just the truth. Mason tried to fight back, of course. Claimed the footage was fake. Said I'd deep-faked the conversation. But people weren't buying it anymore. Not after he'd tried to play victim in a lie and got caught rehearsing it like a scene from a bad play. His video was flagged and removed from most platforms within 24 hours for misinformation and defamation. But it wasn't just about clearing my name. My lawyer filed a formal defamation lawsuit. We had proof of malicious intent, reputational harm, and lost business, and we had witnesses who confirmed Mason had spread the video privately before publishing it online. His legal team tried to settle out of court. They offered me a sum that might have looked impressive on paper, but it wasn't about money. So I said no. We went to court. And for the first time, Mason had to sit in a room and watch the consequences of his actions unravel in real time. He fidgeted as the footage played, glared at me like it was my fault he'd exposed himself. His lawyer tried to argue about context and editing. But there was no spinning this one. The footage was raw, timestamped, and authenticated by the security company. The court ruled in my favor. Not only did I receive damages, which I donated to a scholarship fund in my father's name, but Mason was issued a public retraction order, and his remaining shares in the business, the few he still held through loopholes, were transferred to me in full as part of the settlement. By the end of it, he had nothing left. No house. No business. No reputation. Just a trail of broken relationships and a bitter online presence that now served as a warning tale for others. And Mom? She went silent for months after the court ruling. I didn't hear from her. Not even a message. Not a whisper of apology. But then one day, she showed up at my doorstep. She looked older. Smaller. Can we talk? She asked. I stood in the doorway and let her talk. She rambled at first, about how she was confused, how she thought she was protecting Mason, how she didn't know it would go this far. Then came the part that stunned me. I was wrong. She said, voice cracking. I see it now. I chose the wrong child. I pushed away the one who actually showed up. I didn't say anything for a moment. Then I asked, what do you want? She hesitated. I think I want to make things right. But here's the thing. Sometimes people say that when they see the consequences, not because they regret the choices, but because they regret the results. So I told her gently, I forgive you. But we're not going back. I'm not here to fix this. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just nodded and walked away. And for the first time in years, I felt truly free. I didn't get revenge. I didn't destroy anyone. I just told the truth. And I built a life so solid, no lie could shake it again. Now I run the business with my own team. We're growing steadily. I live in a house my dad built, not because I inherited it, but because I earned it back. Every inch of it. There's still a faint smell in the old SUV. I never fixed it. I like the reminder.